three concepts: creativity, take risks, and psychologist with sense of humor. Could you confirm this?
Oh, that's very nice of Maurizio. Coaching is a lot of different things. I think primarily you have to know the material. You have to have a philosophy. You have to have leadership qualities. And maybe the most important is you have to be a human being. You have to have a sense of ethos, pathos, compassion, because you're working with people.
About humanity, you have an inspirational speech in 2011 with some Russian guys, some Russian prospects, and you said to them, "Don't lose your dream."
Right.
Could you describe more this sentence?
Well, I think it's important that people realize that not everyone can be perhaps a Michael Jordan, but we all have the opportunity to be the best that we can be, the best version of ourselves. And if you do have a goal or a dream, doing everything that you possibly can in order to achieve that, that's success in and of itself. And I think that's a message that's important to any young aspiring person.
Describe you as a player at first and after. Are you good as your son, or is the best one of the family?
Well, I can tell you right off the bat, my son is a better player than I was. But he's only 19. So we'll see, as he goes through his pro career, where he gets to. But at the same age, I think that certainly he's better. He's much more skilled and developed. He's already playing in a professional league, and he's terrific. I'm happy to say part of his basketball education came in Italy. He played in the Benetton program and had some good coaching, and he was very young, but that started him on his way to becoming a basketball player. I mean, me personally, I had different stages of my career. When I was young and in high school, I was a big star, and when I was in college, I was at Princeton part of a very specific kind of system. And then when I went in to play professional basketball in Europe, my game morphed into something different. But probably the most important thing to me as a player, and I took that with me into my coaching career, was the importance of team first and of doing things in the right way, and of always trying to make others around me better, because I knew that would help me with my limitations.
Did Princeton influence your basketball thoughts as a coach?
Yeah, well, to a certain extent. I with the exception of 1 year when I was playing professionally and also coaching in the junior ranks in Israel, that was really the only season I actually played the Princeton offense. All my other years of coaching, many years of coaching, I've used certain elements, but never the Princeton offense in its entirety. But certainly in the time that I spent playing and being coached by Coach Carriera at Princeton, taught me a lot and influenced the way that I saw the game, but it did not become my basketball philosophy.
When did you realize to become a coach?
Well, honestly, when I was playing, every year that I played, I coached a youth team, from kids all the way up to juniors, because it was something that I liked, and it motivated me, and it was fun for me. But even at that time, I didn't see myself becoming a pro coach. It was really only after I got injured and finished my professional career that 6 months later, a team that I had once played for called me and said, please come be an assistant. We want you in the program. It was really only then that I started to coach seriously. And, of course, from that time, it just sort of took off, and I stayed in the profession.
Now there's a funny moment. Your player in Treviso said at the final against Bologna, said they didn't know nothing about our defense.
Yes.
But we didn't realize what we have to do too.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because, we played a very special kind of matchup zone. And, over the years it's been copied or been imitated. But a big part of the matchup defense is indeed to confuse your opponent and to force him to play outside of his normal rhythm and outside of his normal flow. And the defense is so complex that at times you yourself become confused. What helps is that your opponent is more confused than you are. So they're not doing what's comfortable for them. And we used to laugh about it all the time, even internally. We would talk about that. Hey, even if you're making a mistake, if they don't know how to attack it, it's a gain for you. But that wasn't the whole defense. I mean, there were elements that, and times when it seemed like that. But, we were pretty, I think we were pretty progressive and pretty educated in how we did it.
What do you remember? What was the best moment when you were in Treviso?
Well, there's a lot. There were a lot. First of all, there were a lot of great moments, and just the time that I spent in Treviso, the 2 years that I spent there, was a very special part of my life. And I loved it. I loved Italy, and I loved living in Treviso. I loved the organization. Of course, Maurizio that you mentioned, who was our general manager, and Gilberto Benetton, and Giorgio Busavo, all the people that made up the management of the Benetton program, and so many people that worked together with me on the staff and in the office. Benetton was a very, very special place, a true familia, a true home. I remember very specifically the way that we developed, and the way that we came together, and the way that we became such a formidable team that ultimately won the championship in a season that not many people thought that we would, and beat a great Bologna team. And the following year, winning the Cup and the Super Cup, those were special moments. But it really wasn't about one thing. It was just about that special environment, atmosphere, group of people, and the happiness that I had working in that kind of place.
You are linked with the Maccabi Tel Aviv, obviously. What did you learn with Pini Gershon in that incredible season?
Well, there was more than one incredible season, to be honest with you. Yeah. I worked with Pini in the Galil also, in Galil Lyon. I worked with him, of course, in Maccabi. And Pini was and is a very, very forward-thinking, outside of the box kind of coach. He did a lot of things that were atypical, a lot of things that were new, a lot of things that people hadn't used before or maybe seen before. So I learned a good deal from him. But more than anything, I think it was just the idea of doing things a little differently. Not having to be cookie cutter and do it one particular way. And he certainly had a lot of success with it, and I certainly gained a lot of knowledge from working with him.
You put something on Pini when you were the head coach of the Maccabi Tel Aviv and winning the Final Four here in Milan. You started the press conference after the win with "Wow, Steve Jobs,"
right.
Probably the last
words. Yes.
How do you describe this?
Because that whole Final Four and that whole journey that we had was so special. You know, the first word that came to my mind was wow. You know, and ironically, just some weeks before the Final Four, I read that story of Steve Jobs. You know, so when I sat down to do the press conference, I didn't come with a script. You know, but that was the first thing that came to my mind was wow, and I had heard it in reference to Steve Jobs. So I just told the story.
You said wow probably when Kriapa lost the ball and Rice put the bucket, and probably in that moment you have thought that's our time.
Yeah, you know, that seemed to be the door to destiny, so to speak. You know, that the game against Jessica, when not only was it the last play, you know, we were down 15 points in the third quarter and then 10 at the end of the third quarter. That honestly was the moment I felt we had a chance to win. And I told the players in the timeout, you probably could see the timeout, I said, you know, now they're nervous. Now they're where we just got to play good basketball this quarter and, you know, we can win this game. But certainly, you know, when Kriapa lost that ball and we won that game in the last seconds, it seemed to me that we were destined to win the whole thing.
And what are the feelings after an incredible win like that?
It's pride in your guys, the guys that are playing for you. It's happiness, the happiness of knowing that you shared that happiness with 11,000 people that came from Israel to the Final Four, with a whole country of 7 million people that's following and cheering and wanting you to succeed in a way that sort of represents them too. And it's you know, it's kind of a moment of satisfaction when you know that you've accomplished the ultimate, but it originally wasn't your goal. You know, we didn't talk about winning the Final Four. What we did was we worked really hard every day to get better, to commit to each other, to try to be the best version of ourselves. And we got to that point. And because we did, we were able to win the Final Four.
My cousin texted me and said, "Who are this yellow guy?" Maccabi Tel Aviv fans is simple.
Oh yeah, it was so, you know, that was amazing. You know, to walk into the Melodonium here and, you know, just see a sea of yellow and
incredible.
What almost became a home game for us. You know, that was pretty amazing.
And I want to talk about a particular aspect of your trip with the Cleveland Cavs. You lost at Phoenix. LeBron pushed you far from the referee. Mm-hmm. After that game, it was a loss. You take the team and go to the bullying. One, is that true? And was the key of that season? The next game was a win, and after that, 11 wins in a row.
First of all, he didn't push me. He kept me away from the referee because I was attacking him, and he didn't want me to get thrown out of the game. Indeed, you know, we had gone through a string of 8 straight losses because LeBron was injured and hadn't played. And that was the first game that he came back after 2 weeks, and we lost all 8 games without him, which is something that happens to Cleveland all the time. When he doesn't play, they don't win because he's such a big and great player for them. But, you know, we were on the road. We had a number of tough games, tough losses. We'd been working hard. We just couldn't get over the hump. So the idea was to take the players out of the normal routine and the normal cycle and hopefully ease their minds a little bit and have some laughs, spend a little off the court time together, and you know, we did that. And as you said, we did turn around and start a long win streak, beginning with a huge win over the Clippers, which is no small feat, you know, in the Staples Center. Was that the key moment? I don't know. You know, ultimately we did reach the finals. And, you know, the funny thing is that I look at Cleveland's great championship last year that they won, and they had Kevin and they had Kyrie in that finals.
More simple.
We didn't play the finals with those two players. I don't know what would have happened had we had both of those guys. We won 2 games without those 2 guys. So, sometimes the basketball gods say, okay, up until here, maybe you got to wait your time or whatever. I didn't get that chance, unfortunately, but that was a special time too.
You said for being a coach in the NBA, you have to be at the same page as your star. It's different from a Europe type of basketball and conception.
No, I don't remember saying that. I've been quoted for all kinds of things that I didn't actually say. I got to tell you.
Okay.
But in general, I think that's true. Or maybe your relationship has to be such that your star is firmly in your corner. Unless, of course, you're an experienced coach, and you have the longevity and the credibility of a coach that's been in a program for many years and can do things, in a way that he wants to do them, and his word will be, a final one. But you gotta be around long enough to gain that, particularly when you're with a very veteran team, that has players that have been there before and have had championships before. That's not an easy thing. It takes time.
When you were fired from the Cleveland Cavaliers, I remember that morning I opened my laptop and I was shocked.
Yeah.
What was your feeling when you know the news?
Well, that's life in the NBA. Things happen.
You have a lot of story, if I suppose, about some players. Which is the best one of your players? Your time with him, with someone?
In the NBA or in general?
In general.
I've been really lucky. I'm one of the luckiest coaches around. I've had so many great players and so many great people to work with. It's hard for me really to put my finger on one thing or one player. But what I remember the most is, the players, for example, at the end of the season who come to you and say, "Coach, thank you. Mm-hmm. You made me better, or you helped my career, or I so enjoyed my experience." And maybe the most thing is, I learned something when I was here. So, those are the moments, and, it's more than one, fortunately, that I hold most dear.
Is the NBA window still open for you?
All the windows are opened, and the window right in front of me is closed because I'm working with a team and I have a contract for 2 years, and I'm very happy where I am, and I'm committed to what we're doing. So, you never say never. I right now I'm not thinking beyond this season and next, but we'll see.
The last one. Could you describe back Maurizio Gherardini with 3 words?
Visionary, a real human being, and a friend. He's a friend of mine.
Thank you so much.
Sure, man.